Hello. I want to thank everyone for the inconvenience because I had to hop off and now I'm back to take a look at we're finally getting to the fun part of our garden planning, and that's picking out all of the flowers and bushes and all of that really that fun stuff. Um, I'm sorry. You guys will have to excuse me for just one moment and I will be right back. All right. Thank you all for your patience as I get used to doing all of this. It's a little bit of it's a little bit of a learning curve. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at all the pretty flowers and bushes and trees. And now these were just examples. And since I was looking at plants myself, I went ahead and I just pulled up a variation, or I used the plants that I'm looking at for my own garden to do this presentation. And it says upload. Okay, there we go. So this is Canine Sensory Garden Part 5, and it's plant selection. All right, so we're going to take a look at perennial flowers first. And this first flower, it's called the blanket flower. All right, so the blanket flower, it's a herbaceous perennial, and the mature size is 24 to 36 inches tall, and it's a 12 to 24-inch spread. So that kind of gives you a rough idea of how large the plant is. Now, my home, I am west facing. I'm west facing, so all I get is sun from pretty much from dawn till dusk. That's where all my flower beds are. So they're all going to be 100% full sun plants. So, okay. So, and all of the plants that I have selected, they are all plants that are very easy to care for. Because usually by the time fall hits, I am over the yard. So, anyway, blanket flower, it's going to be 24 to 36 inches tall. And then the soil type, these plants are very tolerant of poor soil. It just has to drain well. And it is a repeat bloomer throughout the summer and into the fall. And you pinch back the seed heads to get it to bloom more. There's also the option of just leaving the seed heads and for birds to eat into the fall and winter. and it's hardiness zones 3 through 10. And it comes in various shades of red, yellow, orange, and peach. Let me go back here. I want to make sure I didn't miss a... Okay. All right, so the next one that I chose is called the Cheyenne Spirit Coneflower. It pretty much, it's just in the coneflower group of plants. You can just pretty much take care of them the same way. Oops. Okay, so coneflower. This is the easiest perennial of all perennials. This is the easiest one. And again, this one, it attracts birds and makes really nice cut flowers, has a light fragrance, and you can put it in containers or you can plant it in the ground. And pretty much it just needs to be full sun and well-drained soil. Otherwise, the roots are going to rot out on you. And it is zones, it can be planted in hardiness zones 3 through 9. And it comes in colors of green, orange, pink, purple, red, white, and yellow. The most popular color that you're going to see are the purple coneflowers. And the foliage color, it's blue-green. And then, like I said, you're going to deadhead the plant to get it to bloom more. But then in the fall, you're going to want to leave the seed pods on, or the heads on there, because they dry out and then birds are going to come by and eat those. And butterflies also like them too throughout the summer. Now these plants, they're going to get to a height of about 1 to 3 feet. And you're going to want to give them about 1 to 2 feet of space to spread out as they get older. They aren't fussy about soil texture. They can grow in sandy, rocky, clay soil, just as long as it has a 6.5 to 7.5 pH. So, and then the next one we're going to take a look at is bee balm. I love bee balm. It's so pretty. And this is one that I haven't ever had before. I've had the blanket flowers before, and I've had the cone flowers before, but bee balm, that's going to be new to me this year. So, the mature size, it gets 10 to 48 inches tall and 10 to 36 inches wide. And the sun exposure, they either like full sun, but they will tolerate partial sun just as long as they're getting at least 6 hours of sun a day. They like acidic neutral soil, and they bloom throughout the summer. They come in colors of red, purple, pink, white, and lavender. And the hardiness zones 3 through 9. And bee balm, just like its name, it attracts bees, butterflies, and songbirds, and hummingbirds, which is something my husband and I have had since we moved into this house. It's not something that we ever had when we lived in the city, but we do have them now, and they are a lot of fun to watch. And then also, as these, you're going to deadhead them throughout the summer to make them bloom more. But then over the winter, you're going to go ahead and leave those seed heads on there so that the winter birds can eat those. And another fun thing that you can do with bee balm is you can make tea or use it as a garnish with salads, And then also it has a very nice scent to it in potpourri, and it it repels mosquitoes when the leaves are crushed. And this plant does need to be watered at least weekly. And it's a fast growing perennial, and it's going to reach its full height and full maturity in its first season. And it is a rhizome, which is a plant that it's kind of like what you would call like bamboo. Those are rhizomes. So it has a tendency it'll kind of like run underground. So if you see it popping up anywhere that you don't want it, you're going to want to not just pull the green leaves, you also need to kind of dig down and make sure that you get all of those roots out of there. But I like to just give it space to run. So, and then the next one we're going to look at, it's going to be another new plant to me, is catmint. So catmint, it gets about 10 to 24 inches tall, and it gets 1 to 2 feet wide, and it likes full to partial sun exposure. Just has to be the soil just has to be well drained. It's tolerant of clay soil, and has to just be neutral, acid neutral soil. And it blooms from spring through summer. And the flowers, you can get it. It comes in purple, white, and pink. And this is USDA hardiness zones 4 through 8. And pretty much this is a plant that's known for literally thriving on neglect. You just have to put a little bit of compost or maybe some leaves right at the base of the plant in the winter or late fall, early winter, and that's enough to carry them through. And that's pretty much all you need to do with these plants. The next one is hollyhocks. This one is something that I saw when I was a kid, and I always thought it was a really neat plant. But this is also one that's going to be new to me. And these plants, you'll see these kind of in a lot of the like pictures of like little cottages that you see like in Better Homes and Gardens and stuff like that. These are the really tall plants that are in the back. And so they get 3 to 8 feet tall. And then their width that they need is 1 to 3 feet. So they're going to spread out over time. These attract birds, but they also have the flowers. They are also really nice to cut and bring inside. They bloom looks like they bloom in from summer and into fall. They also attract birds, if I didn't say that before. And these plants are also actually, they're problem solvers because of their height. And when planted close enough together, say like at the 1 foot apart width, then they can also create a good privacy screen. And I'm just going crazy with all the new plants. And these are coral bells. So coral bells, it is a part sun to shade plant. Hi, Anne. How are you? Thank you so much for dropping in. So coral bells, these are a partial sun shade plant. There are a few places where I do have a little bit of morning sun because our yard, the back, probably 3 acres behind us is all wooded. So we do get some morning shade. And these come in chartreuse, which is that it's the lighter crazy green from the 70s. It's not quite the avocado, but it's close to a neon green. And that's the foliage color. It can be chartreuse, gold, gray, silver, and purple or burgundy. And these are very colorful in the fall. And they bloom from spring all the way through summer and into the fall. Some people like to leave the blooms up just because they kind of create, something interesting in, kind of poking up through the snow. If you're one to be prone to depression in the winter. So, and these plants, again, they attract birds, and they're also a really nice cut flower that you can bring in the house. And these are a good container plant, and they can also be planted in the ground. They are hardiness zones 3 through 9. And this is a plant that you can divide on your own. So once you get one going, you can keep dividing them if you want to. If you have one of those yards that kind of progresses over time. And this plant is also a problem solver. It is a great ground cover for erosion control, like say if you have a culvert or something like that. So you don't have as much runoff and your yard isn't washing away. And then thank you for your support, Anne. I appreciate it. Now this one is bellflower. This one has me really super excited because these look so pretty. Let me scooch on up. Okay. So now this flower color, it actually, in like the world of perennials, the color blue is very unusual. You don't see it very often. So these are, of course, I'm going to get the blue ones. But they thank you for just listening though, Anne. I appreciate it. Okay, so these can get from anywhere, they can get as tall as 6 feet high, and they spread out from 6 to 36 inches. And the colors that they come in are blue, pink, purple, red, and white. I might have to get the red ones too. And these bloom bloom throughout the warmer months from spring through the fall. And again, this attracts birds, and it's very good for containers. So you can put it in the ground, and you can also plant it in containers if you want to. And it's a very nice cut flower to bring in your home. And it grows in zones 3 through 10. And this one, this can either be grown from seeds or from stem cuttings. And these are deer resistant. And Coreopsis is our next one up. The mature size of Coreopsis is 2 to 4 feet tall, 1 to 2 feet wide, and it's full sun exposure. It prefers sandy, well-drained soil. And I do have some sandy parts of my yard because we have a lot of sandstone in our yard. And actually, we have a split level, and like the heaviest part of the house is actually sitting on top of a big, huge boulder of sandstone. So, and these you prefer a neutral soil pH. They don't bloom until summer, and they do, but into the fall. They come in the colors of red, orange, yellow, pink, and white. And these grow in hardiness zones 2 through 11. And they are native to North America, Central America, and South America. And a few kind of notes. Now, this plant, you don't need to add any fertilizer. It's fine on its own. But if you're going to plant in heavy or wet soils, you do need to amend your soil with compost to help with your drainage. Okay, and then here are some annual flowers. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail about these because pretty much these are going to be something that you're going to go to your garden nursery, and they're going to just have what's appropriate for your region there. Oops, let me go back. Now, these are snapdragons. They come in both an annual variety the annual variety will reseed itself, but then there's also a perennial variety that will come back every year. So these are you have to kind of look into it, which type that you want to get. And these go really nice in containers. And it's really nice to leave some space for perennials to be put in, just so you have some variety every year. It's not the same old every year. And the next one is a good old garden favorite, which is marigold. And these guys, they're troopers. They're kind of like the Sherman tanks of the annual flower world. And they come in a lot of different colors from orange to light yellow. And then there's Bachelor's Button that comes in quite a few different shades of pink, yellow, and this Bachelor's Button right here, this one is blue. And then Cosmos. These technically these are a annual, but they can reseed themselves and come back up the next year. And then Impatiens. These are very good for shady areas. This is a plant that my dad and I used to plant every year back where it was really shady, back behind the house I grew up in. So I always have an affinity for these particular flowers. And now we're going to look at dog-safe trees. All right, so the hawthorn tree, as with a lot of these plants, there's hundreds of cultivars. So you do need to go online and look at which cultivars work best in your area. And then you're going to need to look specifically, just double check what kind of soil and the USDA hardiness zones for those plants or for these trees. So they grow 15 to 50 feet tall, and they get the trees at their widest point, they get about 5 to 30-foot wide, and they are full sun exposure, and it's moist, well-drained soil. And they bloom in the springtime, and their floral color is pink and white. and their hardiness zones 4 through 8. Now, this is a deciduous tree, and deciduous trees, those are trees that they have green leaves during the spring and summer months, but then they will turn color, and that's what this is showing right here, is a hawthorn that has changed color, and it'll lose its leaves during the winter. That's what a deciduous tree is. And the bloom time is mid to late spring. And excuse me, flowers, they are fragrant, white or pink, and they're 5-petaled flowers, and they look a lot like apple blossoms. Now, this plant, this tree, it does get some fruit on it, and a lot of birds like robins and waxwings and other songbirds like to eat these. So this one, you can kind of have the dogs will enjoy it, you'll enjoy it, and the birds will enjoy it. And then this tree, it's fairly deer resistant because it does have some thorns on it, but an exceptionally hungry deer will nibble on it. And then there's a few really neat trees that we have in here that I didn't even know that some of them are bushes or shrubs. So, and this is the magnolia. The mature size of a magnolia is 20 to 80 foot tall. And then they get 20 to 40 feet wide. Now, this is something I just threw in here. I actually could not grow this myself because they do like moist but well-drained soil. And it's acid, neutral, alkaline soil. And the bloom time is spring through summer, and magnolias do smell very, very nice. And you can get them in pink, white, yellow, or purple. Now, magnolias do best. They can do well in either full sun or partial shade, and they can adapt to sandy or loamy and clay soils, but they do not grow well in soils with poor drainage. So that means you're not going to want to plant these in a low spot in your yard. Okay, and here are dogwoods. So dogwoods, they are partial sun to full sun. Actually, my husband and I are very lucky. We have just a few wild dogwoods back in the woods behind our house. And so, like I said, they're part sun to full sun. They get they get to about 20 feet tall, and their branches will spread out from 10 to 15 feet. And they come in either pink or white. And they also smell very nice. And they have colorful fall foliage, bloom in spring and summer. And they attract birds, and it's a very low maintenance plant. And they do well in zones 3 through 8. And these can be propagated either from seed or from stem cuttings. And then I got this a little bit out of order. Sweet verbena. It can be both a shrub and a small tree. They do like moist, well-drained soil, and They bloom in the spring, and their flowers, they're these kind of big puffy flowers that almost look like snowballs. And they can grow up to 20 feet tall, but you would have to prune them back to keep them, something smaller if you just want it to be a shrub. And these do well in hardiness zones 2 through 9. And their flowers are very, very fragrant. I hope I'm not buffering. I see it on my side. I don't know if I'm doing that on your side or not, Anne. So anyway, we're going to take a look at bushes. Okay, this one I'm really excited about. I've seen it advertised in catalogs, whatnot, for a long time. And thank you, no buffering. Okay, great. So I've seen these in catalogs for a long time, and I've always kind of haven't been sure about them because I haven't really had any experience with them. Let me go over here, take a look at my notes. Okay, butterfly bushes. Part of the reason why you see these in catalogs so much is because they are so easy to grow. If you lose a butterfly bush over the winter, it is not because it got too cold or anything like that. It's because where you planted it was too wet. The roots, they will rot out quickly if it's the soil isn't well drained. So if it dies over the winter, then you're going to want to go ahead and move it to someplace a little bit higher, or the new one a little bit higher. And they are full sun exposure. And these come in, the flower colors are purple, pink, blue, white, and yellow. I've actually seen some varieties that have all of the different colors on one bush, which that sounds like a lot. um, so, and then acid neutral soil, and they are good in hardiness zones 5 through 9. So full sun, they do need at least 6 hours of sun a day. And like I said, their roots are sensitive to rotting, but otherwise they are very easy to grow, and they even do well in clay soil like I have. With just a few special accommodations, they do great. The next one we're going to look at is ground covers. Now, this is a really cool plant. It's called phlox, and there are several different sizes of phlox, which kind of makes it a really kind of a fun plant. So it is basically, this is a low growing plant, and they come in bright pink and sometimes blue or purple. And this is a slow spreading plant. So, and they get about 4 to 6 inches thick. And then it kind of ends up turning into kind of like a carpet, and wherever you plant it at. And the annual type, which is the shortest one, it rarely grows any taller than 2 feet in height. And most of the time, those varieties, the small phlox, they're not very heat tolerant. And then these are good in zones 3 through 9. And then there is the perennial tall garden phlox. And if you know someone that has phlox in their yard, these are the ones, this is the type that most people have in their yard. It usually grows in clumps between 3 to 5 inches or 5 feet in height, and produces flowers in mid to late summer. But it does have a reputation for being very susceptible to powdery mildew. But there are some varieties that are not as susceptible or resistant to powdery mildew. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to need to step away. I've got whining dogs. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. We got everything straightened out. So this next one is called the dog violet, and actually this is actually a wildflower. I actually have some of this in my yard already, but you can buy this from some online nurseries, and then also some folks like on Etsy, they'll go ahead and they will sell this as well. And this is a perennial ground cover. And like I said, sometimes it'll just pop up in your yard randomly. It's good zones 3 through 9. Now we're going to look at shrubbery. Okay, this is the forsythia, and I live kind of in the Midwest, and there's a lot of these. They grow wild as well as the ones that people have actually put in their yard. Okay. And this is a deciduous shrub. It's very low maintenance, and it's also very fast growing. They can get they grow about 24 inches a year, and they get to a maximum height of 10 feet. And if you plant these pretty close together, you can also use these kind of like a hedge for privacy. And this is another plant that attracts a lot of bees and butterflies. That's something that I am very concerned about, is bees. And they are pretty tolerant of poor soil. Now, there is a weeping cultivar of forsythia, and it can be trained to grow as a vine or on a trellis. And it can also be planted behind retaining walls and allowed to cascade over the side, kind of like the phlox in that one picture I was showing you guys. So, and then the mature size, the maximum width is going to be about 2 to 10 feet, a full or partial sun, and they're good. They prefer moist but well draining soil, neutral acidic. Bloom time is in the early spring, and the only color they come in is yellow, and they're good in hardiness zones 5 through 8. All right, now we're going to take a look at the ornamental grasses. And this one is going to be really cool. This next one, it's called pink muley grass. And this is actually a very low maintenance ornamental grass, and it grows at a pretty moderate rate. The mature size is 1 to 3 foot tall, 2 to 3 foot wide, and they like full to partial sun and dry. They like actually soil that's very dry and well drained. And they bloom in the fall, and they come in both the bright pink and then also a pinkish red that's a little more subtle. And they are good in hardiness zones 6 through 9. And then pretty much you really only need to water these pretty regular. In their first year, once they're established, then you don't need to go out of your way to water these. And you can pretty much just, they can depend on rainfall. And this next one is Japanese forest grass. And like I said, I live in the Midwest. So this is something that I actually see in a lot of nurseries that can be planted in pots to kind of add some interest to large pots in the summer. So what you can do with these is you can go ahead and you can put this in your large pot in the summer and then move it over into the ground in the early fall. And these are good in hardiness zones 4 through 9. And they get about 12 to 18 inches tall and 12 to 24 inches wide. And they it's partial sun exposure for them. And this is a pretty slow growing grass. It's not an invasive grass. And then this can also be divided in the spring if you want it to be in a larger area or maybe added to another area. But it doesn't require division to remain healthy. So, and that's it for, I guess, presentation of the plants that I'm looking at. And I hope to come back and post some video of kind of preparing the space that I actually have set aside for growing plants. And then we'll kind of look at, pretty much just working with weed matting. And my husband and I, we chose stone for our mulch. So we're going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks and then we're also going to kind of look at purchasing different places that you can purchase plants online to get those planted. And you'll get more of a selection than you will at your local garden center. But again, we're going to research and make sure that we're getting the right plants for the right hardiness zone. So that's about it for my presentation. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you so much for coming in, and I appreciate you taking the time out to kind of take a look at different plants and different things that we can do to in dogs' lives a little bit more. And so that's about it. And thank you so much and have a good evening.